My essay is called Where Do Black Men Go to Dance? It's an essay about raving, because I like to rave. And it's about a nightclub in East London called Visions that some of you may have heard of. But I mean, the subtext to it is about the kind of commodification of culture that is predominantly produced by black men. So I think that there's kind of been a renaissance for a vanguard of black men in terms of producing culture, even though politically, maybe for the majority, there hasn't been much progress. But anyway, this is Where Do Black Men Go to Dance? On Fridays, the queues into 588A Kingston Road were a catwalk of luxury streetwear. You could spot the Fashion Over Freakum dress or the two-piece Supreme tracksuits. In the queue were the white girls wearing fitted jeans with Stan Smiths and the black boys in throwback Elise. In contrast to the West End's sterile dress policies, the fitted cap and trainers were uniform. And although there wasn't anything that you could not wear, there were certainly things that every aspiring East London cool kid tried to. In the crowd of Blair's babies just arriving at their adult years, I was one of Thatcher's grown-ass kids in the overdraft of my extended adolescence. I'm a big man, but I'm not 30. I'm past 30 now. I'm a big man, but I'm not 30. So here I came, trying to get into the club that my mother used to rave at in the mid-1990s, that now played music by the MCs who I grew up beside. I was born in Hackney in East London, where Vision's Video Bar has resided on Kingston Road for a quarter of a century. I came of age in Tottenham. If you follow the Kingston Road north for another 15 minutes. Like the surrounding area, the club found a fashionability as a purposely unglamorous basement sweatbox, playing the music working class black people make and dance to. I've only known Visions to be steaming, one of the few places that weekly play the music I like to brack out to. So a part of the essay looks at it does a bit of an oral history of Visions, and it looks at this black club in which the founder was from West London, but they refused to give him a license in West London. He came to East London and they refused to give him a club in East London. So he got his white friend to basically pretend to be the owner, to go and basically lease the property, and they gave it to his white friend and not him. So there's a bit about that and talking to him about his experience. And then within that, the irony is that despite trying to overcome those racial barriers, the club then began to enforce its own kind of racial hierarchy in terms of how many black men are let in. And this is Eddie. I think the guest list for me is to try and filter out more the decent people for them to enjoy themselves. They could be Indian, black, white, it doesn't matter. You won't get no problem, it just takes one person to upset a whole club. He adds, not everyone is desirable, if they're a threat to security. Visions never really had the infrastructure to operate an exclusive tiering system like a Mayfair club. Until recently, there were not any tables, and so there was no table service. A boiler room cupboard, the size of 2 toilet cubicles and a podium in the front of the DJ booth had been the closest thing to operating in VIP area. The tiny area within the club hosted a smattering of hood-famous black men and members of their entourages, surrounded by a uniform of attractive young white women and the occasional ambiguous lighting. To me, there was always a notable absence of dark-skinned black women to complement the plethora of dark-skinned black men. In a society that reproduces the stories, importance, and aesthetics of white Brits, anything created by anyone else is automatically counterculture, even if it was not intending to be. The artists that crammed into Vision's boiler room were the vanguard of our culture, who stuck with it long enough for it to pay. The billion-pound company Vice took it upon itself to make grime their home, and although appearing, on my visits at least, to have one of the least diverse newsrooms in journalism, paid for unparalleled access to the work of black men. Skepta, the elder of Boy Better Know, whose signature look was a black tracksuit, now has a high-end clothing line at Uptown Selfridges. Giano, who's made his name at Visions Club, has been sought to throw parties for corporate brands and private member clubs like the Curtain and Soho House, in need of exclusive parties. Everybody wants in on this counterculture, but where I came from, that was just our common culture. So to be told on a Friday that there won't be any space to let me in because the club's quota on black men is over capacity, not only left me with a sense of disownership, but also the practical dilemma of where I go to dance without a ticket. Amid the popularity of black music, there is no limit on the numbers of tracks by black men that are played, but there is a limit on how many of us are let in to appreciate it. Black cool is a desirable product. Black people, not so much.